Hey folks, it's Prime, and today's vlog is a little bit about mindset and mental toughness. And this is just a snippet of the last webinar that I did on June 22nd for the Intelligent Cross Training Crash Course. And if you like what you've been hearing, then there will be some information coming out next week about the Intelligent Cross Training Academy, where we'll cover a lot of this more in depth. So mindset and mental toughness, and this is going to be a super quick and dirty, much shorter version of the webinar than actually existed. But I'm going to run really quickly through what mindset is, how it affects mental toughness, and then 4 ways that you can think tougher when you're out on the track or anywhere in life, really. So mindset. Mindset is what I consider to be the foundation of mental toughness, because mindset is your beliefs about yourself and your abilities, and more importantly, they act as a lens through which you view and interact with the world. So the way that you think about yourself and your abilities colors how you talk to other people, how you talk to yourself, and really how you exist in the workplace, at school, on your roller derby team, within your family. All of your relationships are kind of colored by your mindset. And mindset exists on a spectrum, and if you follow me even slightly, you know that I talk about this spectrum a lot. So on one end of the spectrum is a fixed mindset, and on the other end is a growth mindset. Most of us fall somewhere along the spectrum, but we're usually closer to one end than the other. Fixed mindset people believe that their abilities are fixed, which means that you're born with the amount of innate talent or skill that you have in any general domain. And it doesn't ever increase. So that means you are born with a certain amount of talent in soccer and you'll never get better at soccer no matter how hard you try. Or you're born with a certain amount of artistic ability and you'll only ever be such a good artist, and no matter how hard you try, you'll never be any better. So that's an example of what a fixed mindset looks like and how it might color your beliefs of the world that you interact with. And then a growth mindset is this idea that your abilities are really unknown and they're actually unknowable. You can't possibly know what you could do until you put in the effort and the hard work to figure it out. So that's the difference between them. It's a pretty big difference. Mindfulness is one of the ways that we start hearing our fixed mindset voice. And fixed mindset voices can be pretty detrimental. There are lots of things we know about fixed mindset people. They tend to give up easily. They tend to only choose easy tasks. They don't like change. They get very defensive when they hear feedback, even if it's constructive and not critical. So having a fixed mindset voice can really color the way you interact with your world in a negative light. If you don't think that you can ever get better at anything, it makes you scared to try new things. And for somebody that's learning a sport, or somebody that is in a relationship, or somebody that exists in the world, being afraid to try new things and thinking that you can't learn anything is kind of a dangerous space to be in. So the first thing that we need to do is be mindful about when we're hearing our fixed mindset voice. So these are some questions that you can be asking yourself about what you say to yourself during a few specific instances or a few specific times that come up frequently for us every day, right? Things like challenges. Do you say something like, "Are you sure you can do it?" Or "What if you fail?" Because those are both a fixed mindset voice. When you face setbacks, do you say things like, "This would have been easy if you were any good," or "So-and-so could have done this no problem"? Or when you're facing criticism, do you tend to get super defensive and say, "It's not my fault"? Or do you just get really angry and go Red Ross and throw all the shit off your desk? What is it that you do? When you're thinking about these things, when you're thinking about when you're facing challenges and setbacks and criticism, you don't have to solve the problem right now. The very first piece of it, this mindfulness piece, is actually just to flag it. You just want to flag your fixed mindset voice, which means that whenever you feel like you're saying something super negative, or you feel like you're talking in a fixed mindset, or you're saying something that just doesn't make you feel very good inside your head, in your inner dialogue, you just red flag it. You don't do anything about it. You just mark that statement, you mark that moment, you mark that trigger with a red flag. You don't deal with it right now. And once you've been doing this mindfulness practice for a little bit of time, you can start to go back and look at these red flags that you've collected. And chances are good you'll find that there are certain trigger points that have a ton of red flags around them. And then you address those trigger points. So for example, I have a lot of really fixed mindset thoughts when it comes to jamming. Whenever somebody hands me the jammer panty, or whenever I know I'm going to have to jam, my fixed mindset voice comes out. And there's a ton of red flags around that trigger point for me. And so it had to become, what is it that upsets me so much about jamming? What is it that makes me so nervous about jamming? What is it that makes me so negative about jamming? And then finding a way to take those thoughts and reframe them. So what if I fail? Well, what if I succeed? And even if I am not sure I can do it, I'm going to give it my all. And you practice those positive statements at a time when you're not facing your trigger. So it's not like when somebody hands me the jammer panty, I'm going to be like, oh, it's time for me to think my positive thoughts. It's that I already have those thoughts. I've already created those thoughts, and they're kind of in my pocket. And when somebody hands me the jammer panty or my trigger shows up, I pull those thoughts out and I replace my fixed mindset thought with those other thoughts. So mental toughness is kind of intuitive. It's actually related to mindset, like I said before. Being able to have mental toughness or think tougher when you're playing is based on the way that you look at the world and the way that you interact with the world. If you're a hothead out on the track, chances are good that you're not flagging the right emotions and that you're not taking the time to reframe things. And the more you practice, the more mentally tough you can become. The best definition that I found for mental toughness, even though one doesn't really exist that's agreed upon across the whole universe, is when you're dealing with stressors, pressures, and challenges to the best of your ability, regardless of the circumstances. So you go out there and you're your best all of the time, regardless of who you're playing or what you're doing or how many refs there are or whatever else might be going on in your life. If your team ends up only going to an away bout and only having 8 skaters, that doesn't change the way that you play your game, because your game is your game. That's basically what mental toughness is. So one of the things I like to do when I talk about mental toughness is to give everyone a moment to think about someone who they really admire for their mental toughness and answer a few questions, which is, what do they do that makes them mentally tough? How do they behave that makes them mentally tough? And why do you admire them? And once you start to notice those things, it's a little bit like green flagging, I guess you could say. You're pinpointing the things about them that you want to imitate. And hopefully over time, now that you know what those things look like, what that behavior looks like, how you act in certain situations, that you'll be able to mimic that. So mental toughness, I have divided into a kite. And this is adapted from a blog post that was co-written, or that was written by a member of my team, and also she adapted it from several books. So we have a situation up here, and this situation can be anything. It can be related to your derby career. It can be related to not your derby career. And the situation is affected by 4 corners of your kite: your thoughts, your emotions, your behaviors, and your physiology. And as you can see, all of the things within the kite, all of the corners, are attached to each other. So if you pull on one corner of the kite, or you somehow change one corner of the kite, you're changing the shape of the kite, or you're changing the way the kite flies, which changes your overall situation. So based on our kite, there are 4 ways that we can think tougher. The first way is to affect your physiology, which is basically your body's automatic reaction to stressors. So I'm not talking about what you're thinking or your emotions or how you act. It's what your body does without your conscious thought, which is typically fight or flight, or rest and digest, which means you're either turning on the system of your body that makes you want to run away or punch someone in the face, or the system in your body that helps you calm down and digest your food, because you can't both punch someone in the face and run away and digest your food at the same time. So if we can use breathing and relaxation techniques to control our physiology, we can actually use the fact that we're no longer in fight or flight mode to help calm our thoughts and calm our emotions and change our behaviors, make our behaviors more in line with something that would be calmer or considered more mentally tough in that situation. So you can breathe in patterns, and there are tons and tons and tons of breathing patterns that you can find on the internet. There's box breathing, where you picture a box and you breathe for 4 breaths in up one side of the box, and you hold it for 4, which is the top of the box, and then you breathe out for 4 breaths, which is the bottom of the box, or 4 counts, which is the other side, and then you hold for 4 counts, which is the bottom of the box, and you keep breathing that way. And there are lots of breathing patterns like that, and it's just a matter of finding the one that works for you, that actually helps your physiology calm down. If you breathe in through the mouth, you're more likely to turn on your fight or flight mode, and breathing in through the nose is more likely to help you rest and digest. So you might want to be thinking about those things if you're feeling extra stressed out. That's why in yoga, a lot of times they tell you to breathe through the nose, or meditation. Also, you can think of things with an external focus. This is a relaxation technique where you take your nervous energy and you apply it to something outside of you. So I've talked about this a little bit in one of the blogs, about having rituals that you do before the bout. Like, you always put on your gear the same way. You always tie your shoes the same way. You always listen to the same songs. You always do the same dynamic warm up. Putting your focus into those external things can actually help calm you down, and use your physiology. So once we tug on that physiology piece of the kite, we're changing the thoughts, the emotions, and behaviors, and the overall situation changes. If changing the physiology doesn't work for you, you can tug on the thoughts corner of your kite, which is using positive self-talk. And we already talked a lot about that when we talked about mindset, right? Reframing your thoughts. You don't necessarily have to have positive self-talk all the time, and you probably won't. Like, you're human. You probably won't have positive self-talk all the time. But being able to flag when your positive self-talk disappears and reframe it is really, really important. And over time, you get so good at it that eventually those red flag points become places where your positive self-talk just shows up. And once you control those thoughts, it helps you control your emotions and your physiology and your behaviors. Visualization and imagery is the third thing that you can do to think tougher, and you can visualize both skills and performance. So you could sit in a chair at home, somewhere that's quiet and calm and that you're not getting distracted, and you could visualize yourself executing a skill, and all of the things that you need to do to execute that skill perfectly. So like hockey stops or plow stops, skills that you struggle with, very specific skills. And the other way that you can visualize and use imagery is through performance. So you actually visualize your entire performance at a bout. You are playing the position that you're going to play in the bout. You're wearing the uniform that you're going to wear in the bout. It's noisy and loud in the bout. There are whistles. There's all of these things going on. You picture it as vividly as possible, and you picture yourself doing well. It's also important that when you are using imagery and visualization, that you include some adversity. And this kind of goes back to the second one, which is positive self-talk. You prepare yourself for those red flag moments before they occur, so that when they do occur, they end up not being that big of a deal. One of the really cool things about visualization is it's actually shown to increase how decrease the time in which it takes you to learn a skill if you use visualization. Because if you picture something enough, your body starts to think that it's already done that thing. Your muscles actually start to think that they've already done that thing. And so it's much easier to actually do that thing. The last way to think tougher, which I'm not going to go into too much depth, is to create goals. And there are process goals versus outcome goals. One of the best ways to increase your mental toughness is to deal in process goals. And process goals are what I like to call small wins. So you make a goal that is very small, very short term, very easily broken down, and very easy to tell if you've met it. And once you reach that goal, right, that's a win. And that confidence allows you to be mentally tougher. And it allows you to attack larger, more difficult goals over time. So an example of a process goal, if I wanted to learn how to hockey stop, I may need to start with just a plow stop, like just learning how to move my feet, or a one-footed plow stop, or, balancing on one leg, whatever thing I think it is, whatever process it's going to take to get me to a good hockey stop, I need to break it down, right? My outcome would be like, I want to be able to hockey stop. And my process goal would be like, in order to get there, I'm going to spend an hour practicing hockey stops on my skates per week. I'm going to, focus on using exercises that will help me get better at hockey stops. So those are process goals, and they help you think tougher. because those small wins, again, give you confidence over time. So that was a little bit longer than I planned, but a really quick and dirty introduction to mindset and mental toughness. And if you stay tuned on the Facebook page, next week, the Intelligent Cross Training Academy is going to be ready for its public launch. And we go through all of this in a lot more detail in the Intelligent Cross Training Academy. All right, if you have any questions, you can always email me at hi@ironoctopusfitness.com, or you can message me on Facebook, and I will see you guys later. All right, get cracking.